In the spring of 1790, just 1 year after his inauguration, George Washington stepped away from his presidential duties in Manhattan. As a part of his national tour after the American Revolution, his mission at this time was a 5-day, 165-mile tour of Long Island, New York. On April 20th, 1790, the president's entourage crossed the East River to Jamaica. On April 21st, Washington recorded in his diary, "The morning being clear and pleasant, we left Jamaica around 8 o'clock and pursued the road to South Hempstead. A plain said to be 14 miles in length by 3 or 4 in breadth, without a tree or a shrub growing on it." By the afternoon, they reached Hempstead, a village that had served as a hub for the island since its founding in 1643. Washington stopped at the Sammis Tavern, which he noted was formerly a tavern now of private entertainment for money.
So General George Washington became president in 1789, and he, of all people, knew how intensely important Long Island was to the entire Revolutionary War endeavor, because he was here a great deal. The western end of Long Island is Brooklyn, and that is where the Battle of Brooklyn took place, on what is now called Brooklyn Heights, where Washington fled with his armies and got across to New Jersey and thereby escaped what could have been the end of the war right then and there, because the British were too powerful. But later, once he got elected, he thought to himself, I am going to take these trips, and he came directly across Long Island. He would have used in great part this street here. Obviously it wasn't in that form at the time, but this marker commemorates the fact that one of the main taverns in the town known as Hempstead was right here, and run by Nehemiah Sammis and his family literally until 1929. Started about 1650, ran till 1929, and so there are records of Washington in his diary saying, well, we stopped at Sammis. The churchyard around St. George's, this beautiful church, not that one, but one with a much thinner spire, and topping its spire was that weather vane. It's been called the Golden Rooster, the Golden Cock. When the Revolutionary War began, this area was one of the major places to station British troops, because the territory overall was loyalist. This was the most developed spot, and it just had a few main taverns and main roads going through it and farms all around, but this was the most developed spot, so they quartered the British troops. They took over St. George's Church. They were not nice to it. Again, it wasn't that one, but it had that rooster, and one of the things that the Hessian soldiers who were hired by the British to come over and help on with the fight, they were the ones mainly known for using it for target practice. The Patriots, the American troops, chased the British out for a while, and they occupied St. George's. They demanded no prayers be said for the king. Well, time went by, and after a year or so, the British came back and were able to drive them out. And they occupied St. George's, a number of the farms around, used up all the cattle, all the stock. When the war was over, left the place pretty devastated, and it all had to rebuild. So when Washington came through in 1790, he would have been seeing the rebuilding that had been going on since 1783, when the British finally left.
Traveling along the Great South Bay, Washington arrived at Sadecos Manor on April 21st to spend the night. Though built in 1697, the estate had more recent history. During the Revolutionary War, it served as the headquarters for the British Army, while the Thompson family remained on their land.
Washington took this tour. We really don't know for sure why. He did several other tours of areas. This, remember, was one area during the Revolution he never saw, because it was in British territory. There was no way to see it. So that may have been part of the reason. Part of it may be to have thanked people. Part of it may have been just to show his face around an area. And the fact is, it was delayed for quite a while. It's 1790 when he does this. So just give you one example. In 1788, the general in charge of the island comes out here with 1,000 of his close friends, mounted men, to seize 1,000 cattle and require every person who lived on Long Island, especially Suffolk County, because this is rebel territory, to sign an oath of allegiance. Among others, Isaac Thompson does. We also know that one of the major families, William Nicol, close friend of Isaac Thompson, he signs. All of them were also people who signed the Articles of Association. Today, there are groups that consider them as traitors because they took the oath. They didn't have a choice. If you read General Delancey's proclamation, it tells them that if they don't sign, they go to prison, all their property is confiscated, and their families will be sent off to Connecticut. Now, Connecticut decided that everybody down here was a traitor. Basically, if they didn't have a good friend, they were going to starve to death. So you didn't have a choice. They were basically told, sign or die. As it is, between 11,500 and 15,000 people died on the prison ships, in the sugar houses, and the seized churches.
So welcome to the master bedroom, or the bedchambers of General Sir Henry Clinton during the Revolutionary War. This was originally the bedroom of the couple who built this house, and that's Isaac Thompson and Mary Gardner Thompson. But when the general came to stay at the house, the King's Quartering Act is passed during the Revolutionary War, which basically says that as a royal subject of the crown, you must give up your living quarters to members of the Majesty's forces. So the family themselves are relegated to live in the third floor garret or attic of their home, and their bedrooms are taken over by General Sir Henry Clinton and his other aides de camp who stayed in the house here with him. Whenever they would come out here, and they would use the house for his headquarters. Adorning the walls of the room you can see around here are all portraits or etchings of British officials. And the family chose to do that because they really wanted to teach their descendants and their heirs what actually transpired here in this house, what took place, and that this forever in their mind was British territory in a sense, because the British came and they not only occupied Long Island, they occupied people's homes. So now we're standing in the room where President George Washington stayed on the night of April 21st, 1790, during his famous tour of Long Island in the early part of his first presidency. Now, story has it that when the president comes to the house and he is speaking with the proprietor of the home, that's Judge Isaac Thompson, he's a widower at this point. His wife has now passed away, Mary, in 1786 on April 21st. Providentially, that is exactly 4 years to the day of Washington's visit. But when he comes here, he asks Isaac where General Sir Henry Clinton stayed. So he either knew that he stayed there, or had gotten word, or maybe Isaac shared that with him when he came in. But he asked to see the room, and he specified that he would prefer not to stay in that room. And he chose the room right across the hall here. And it's a treasure trove to have this here on Long Island, that you can actually experience and see both sides of the American Revolution, and they're literally just across the hallway from one another, not across an ocean. Much more closer and intimate. But Washington, again, has not set foot on Long Island soil since that famous Battle of Long Island on August 27th, 1776. It's now April 21st, 1790, and he's able to set foot on Long Island again. So, and see the island that he never really saw. So it must have been an interesting tour for him. This is the landing of the second floor of the 1772 home of Mary Gardner Thompson and Isaac Thompson. Now, at the time that this incident that we're going to explain happened, Long Island is under British occupation. The Battle of Long Island has been lost August 27, 1776. So this is October 27, 1776. It's exactly 2 months after the Battle of Long Island is lost. Story has it that Isaac Thompson He can't sleep in his bedroom because it's now General Sir Henry Clinton is staying here at that time. He has to go to the upstairs garret of the home, which is up here. He's standing here and he's holding a lantern, and a British sentry outside on patrol sees him standing here by the window, raises his musket, fires a volley. It misses the judge, and it lodges itself on the stairs right behind him. And he left it there for his descendants to see, that they would know the struggles and the suffering that they had.
So these people basically lived under the heel of the British. They were in their homes, they were quartered here. We know that there were horsemen stationed here. Sir Henry Clinton used this as a headquarters when he came out on the island. They may have come out to go hunting, which was a big thing out here even then. So basically, it was not a great place to be. Whether or not Clinton ever actually commanded the army from here, that would be difficult. But he was here, and he could have been here for any number of reasons, because large British groups went through every time there was a problem going on in the area. By the time Washington came through, things were starting to return to normal. This would be, years after the British had left. We were occupied till at least 1783 end. The last British soldier leaves in December from the New York area. They were still here as late as November. Our town minutes still say God Save the King up until 1783. 1784 is the first time they basically say God Save the people of the state of New York.
Washington traveled through West Sayville, stopping briefly at the home of Samuel Greene, one of the area's original settlers. He reports that he then dined at Hart's Tavern in Brookhaven, before turning north, passing through Coram on his way to Setauket. Here in Setauket, he spent the night at the home of Captain Austin Roe, a Patriot spy during the Revolutionary War. Washington departed Roe's at 8 a.m. and pushed west through Smithstown toward Huntington. Continuing to observe the land, he wrote, "The whole of this day's ride was over uneven ground, and none of it of the first quality, but a change for the better took place between that and Huntington." In Huntington, he dined at Platt's Tavern, which he described as tolerably good. He continued his journey, stopping in other areas such as Lloyd's Neck, which had served as a rendezvous for Tories during a part of the Revolution. In Roslyn, he had breakfast at a Mr. Underdunk's, which was Hendrik Onderdunk's farmhouse, today known as Hendrick's Tavern. After breakfast on the 24th, Washington headed through Flushing and Brooklyn, crossed the East River, and was back in Manhattan by sundown. Even though Washington's image was everywhere in America in the 1790s, his humility was on display by going on this journey. He acknowledged the risks taken by everyday citizens, and this helped strengthen the bonds between the new federal government and the local communities. Within the week after he completed his trip, Washington was back to working with his cabinet, discussing where to send diplomats, the logistics of possible conflicts with native nations, regulating the military, and punishments for certain crimes against the United States.